Oh, mosquitoes are so vanishing.
Not so big on the snow, but
Stay home. Oh, that's what I do.
But it's so pretty.
it is pretty, isn't it? Till you're shoveling it's all. But snow's pretty.
Snows pretty.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that seems to shovel it at the house.
Yeah.
Does it ever snow in Jamaica?
And nope. Only when we have fake snow.
Fake
Yeah.
snow?
Yeah, that was 1 year. I used to go all out for Christmas decoration, thousands of lights on the house and all of that. Me and my brother would split the bill, and then one day we imported some fake snow in the can. I had a village set out there, and we sprayed it on and
Yeah.
everything. Doggone dumb people came and went, "Is it real?" I'm like, "It can't be real with melt."
You're in Jamaica. What do
Yeah,
you
we're in
think?
Jamaica, it can't be real. But
That's what
that
I
was
couldn't
the biggest
understand.
attraction.
You and I go to those tropical places.
Yeah.
And they're playing Christmas music. That just didn't make sense
Right.
to me.
Yep. Don't worry, we got dashing through the snow. You know, one of those opens there. You should see those kids singing. I'm like, doggone it, you guys have never seen snow. What are you talking about? But
They would love it. I bet they'd love it.
When the Olympics come, where does the bobsled guys? Where
They
does they
actually have to
practice?
train in Canada.
Do they really?
Yeah, because there's no
Doesn't-
facility in Jamaica for them whatsoever.
Right.
And some of them, the first time they actually saw snow was when they went training. So
Yeah.
they never.
I was leaving it was snowing, we were leaving on a cruise down from Baltimore.
Okay.
And we got there, it's really coming down. And we were late in departing, but all the crew, they never saw snow. They were out there rolling,
yeah.
rolling around in it.
Yeah, because a lot of those crew are from islands. They're
Yeah.
from Jamaica and all of those places.
Yeah.
They've never
Yeah.
seen snow.
Yeah, oh, they
That's
were
true.
having a ball.
Yeah. Should have seen my wife. Her big downpour was the blizzard last year when we
Oh,
started off
yeah.
with the blizzard. And that was in the what? Night?
Yeah.
And she's like, "I'm going outside. Come on, honey." I'm like, "No."
You need to hand her the
I'm like,
shovel.
"No." And she's like, "All right, come, Mikario." And Mikario went out with her and took pictures, and she was in the night in the blizzard, and I'm looking through the window. She's like, "Yeah."
Give her the shovel.
Had my fill. Why would I want to go into a blizzard? I've had my fill. You can go. So snow. And those snow angels and all those things. Then she goes in, and then I have to go out and go with a snow blower. Yep. And then Mikaria conveniently falls asleep. I don't know. That's how it goes. All right. I think we are ready. All right. There's enough of us. Let us go. Thank you guys for being here, and welcome to Bible study once more. Our online people are here. Everybody's going. So, all right, just one point of note. Keep in prayer. The core family, Charlie passed away this morning. So, I know it's sad, but to me, it's a relief.
Yes.
Because he, had the ventilator, then they took him off and just let him go. So that is good.
Yes,
He
it
didn't-
is.
Wasn't strung up and anything like that. So
Where was he?
Good Sam.
Okay.
It was over the weekend. Saturday he was rushed to Good Sam. That's why I wasn't even at the banquet to help. I was at the hospital on Saturday. So yeah. Alright. Let us pray and then we can get started. God, we thank you for allowing us to be here, that we can have another Bible study. We pray that you continue to open our hearts and minds just to learn more from your word now. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So this study is getting, to me, more interesting because there's a few little things that I wasn't paying attention to much when I used to read this thing here, but after reading it so many times and going through it, I'm like, really? How did I miss that? So we're gonna see some things here. Now last week where we stopped, we looked at Jesus saying some things and repeating what was going to happen again, but then we realized he was saying, more is going to happen from these people. But this, right now where we're going to start at, he again changes how he was talking. That's why I tell you, got to pay attention when Jesus is talking. So, we are at, here we go. Yeah. So, Jesus once again in his speech gets specific. Remember 2 paragraphs ago, he was specific about what was going to happen in Jerusalem. People had to be running for their lives. If you're on the housetop, don't come down because they're going to raid Jerusalem and all of that. He was very specific with that. And some people misinterpreted it and thought that it was happening, going to be the tribulation period. But we already studied that he had said there is a time of sorrow that's going to affect the world. And that's a tribulation time. Not the tribulation period, but a tribulation time. And on my guesstimate, I am thinking we're in that time of sorrow because I see where the entire world now is experiencing sorrow all at one time. So, he told us all of that, and now all of a sudden he goes back to get specific again in what he's saying. So let's see where he's going. He now starts telling his disciple of when he will return for his people. And so he was giving general things of what will happen, and then he gets back to, hold on, just before I come, this is what is going to happen. And everybody's like, what? So this is where he picks up the conversation. Now this is what I like to call the first end. Because I keep telling you, if you really study the Bible and realize there's a couple of end coming, winding up transactions. Like, remember those old time cars you gotta crank up? That's what's happening when it comes to the end time with Jesus here. It's like there's a crank and then there's another crank before we get to where things really end up. So the end time is not this short thing as a lot of people make it out to be. Oh, the end time is near. Yeah, we're in the end time, but it's not tomorrow. There, as I said, there is a lot going to happen after the rapture, and there's at least 1,000 years. I don't think any of us here are going to be around to see that. Well, none of us will be around there to see that. We'll all be in heaven looking down and wondering, wow, this is serious. But this is what? So this is the first end he's talking about here. That's what I like to call it. So believe me when I say it will seem like the end of the world to a lot of people, but it's still not. I'm going to tell you why. Because I know a lot of people have said some things about the rapture, but they have not shown you these things that will make the rapture be something that is not pleasant for other people. So, we're going to be going to that today. So, the coming of Jesus is the last leg of the end. So, this is where the final baton is passed, and then now the rapture takes place, and then you have that wrapping up after the rapture to the last day. So this is the last leg of the race, and Jesus is telling them what is going to happen. And the Revelation is the book that has most of these details after the last leg has happened. So if you want to know what happens after the last leg, that is after we are gone, dead, and we're already resurrected and raptured up and all of that, you got to read Revelation. That part we're not here to see it. But we are here right now in the time of sorrow and in that time of tribulation, which is not the tribulation period. Don't know if we're going to survive it, to tell you the honest truth, but we're in it, right? So let's look at the portion of scripture we'll look at today. We're only doing this, as I said, we're taking our time. So Matthew 24 verses 29 to 31, Jesus said, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angel with the great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So there's a lot to impart here. I mean, this thing could go word for word. The word immediately, very important. You know, when you look at heavens, very important. And these are just one words. But we'll be getting into a little bit of some of those things. Let's go. So we have to break it up first of all. So he says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened. Before I even go any further, if you notice, again, tribulation of those days. not the tribulation period. People keep on mixing it up. He makes sure to be specific. Jesus was very specific and he told us those days, not the tribulation period that is after the rapture. So he says those days. So when people want to say this is the tribulation period, then I'm like, okay, then when Jesus specified in what he said, then you are saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. So be careful when people tell you that those are the tribulation days. And I'm going to show you that they are not, because we are going through this thing in time. But the first one we look at, the sun will be darkened. And I'm like, okay. Now when I used to read this and not study it, of course, reading it, the sun will be darkened, the moon with this, and so I'm looking for all of that to happen. And believe me, guess what? It's happening. But again, we need to be specific. And we're going to go specific and you will learn some things here. So, we're looking at the sun will be darkened. Now, just to be clear, after reading the passage, we need to understand what Jesus is saying. He is again talking about a specific period in time, not generally. Because the sun does get dark generally. And we don't might, some people might not believe that, but we're going to see that it has a cycle to happen, and it's been happening for a long time. It's just that we weren't paying attention. And we're going to see why him being specific in this period of time is different from the cycle of the sun being darkened all this time. Because some of the time, that's why I love this science. I tell people I hated science until I went to Lancaster Bible College. And they forced me to go into a science class. I'm like, I came here to learn the Bible. I will not go into science. And they said, this science class is being taught by a Christian scientist. I'm like, what? Now the curiosity alone made me go into the class, because I've never met a Christian scientist. You get what I'm saying? He taught us the perspective of how science actually backs up the word of God. And I was like, oh, I had more ammunition in my life than I ever had before when I left that class. He was good, and he showed me what I was missing. So thank God I went to the class. My disobedience almost got me into trouble. So again, speaking about a specific period in time, he's not speaking generally, right? So this is a specific period in time. In other words, all these things are going to play out in a sequence that he's talking about, or it's going to happen all at once. So he's talking about a specific period in time. Now, this is the thing that a lot of people did not realize, including me when I was younger and reading the Bible. So let me confess on camera. Right? We are experiencing these things already, right? But we've not experienced them in a specific sequence. That's the thing. So for me, when I was younger, man, when I really heard about my first eclipse, I was like, yes, the Lord is coming. My eclipse has been going on before I was born. Gary probably had his first eclipse when you were way younger than me, before I was even born. But now I heard about it. To me, God is coming back because it said so in the Bible. Eclipse has been going on a long time. But we need to remember specific period in time, and he's talking about a specific sequence. So let's keep going. Right, so let's look closely at what he said. So this is what is going to happen. Now this is a fast forward one. I found one that was easy for us to see and pick up when this is the sun having an eclipse. Here we go. It's phenomenal. This is like awesome. It's like total darkness. As I said, this is elapsed time. Cameras and all these wonderful telescopes can do this for us because we can't look into it in real life. Although they make now glasses that you can, but not everybody can buy those. like myself. I'll watch it on TV safely, right? So now we've seen that. Now I'm going to do to you what I did to myself. I'm going to put you back in science class. Because now we're going to see where science is working also with God. Even though they don't know it. So we're going to science class for a little bit here. Now, I love Natural Geographic because they have nothing to do with God. I'm sorry, it sounds awful, but it's great because guess what? The best people to let you understand that something is going to happen is the people that can explain the science. Then afterwards, you will see what the Bible is saying is going to happen and you understand the miracle of what God is going to do when He returns. So let's go to science class. Here we go.
A solar eclipse happens when a new moon moves between the Earth and the Sun, blocking some or all of the Sun's rays from reaching the Earth. By cosmic chance, even though the Sun is 400 times wider than the Moon, it's also 400 times farther away. Therefore, the two objects appear the same size in our sky. Astronomers are able to predict eclipses because the Earth and Moon have very predictable orbits. Why then isn't there an eclipse every month? The Moon's orbit is usually tilted a few degrees north or south in relation to the Earth. When the Moon does eclipse the Sun, it casts two types of shadows on Earth. A smaller, darker shadow known as the umbra, and a larger shadow known as the penumbra. There are four types of solar eclipses. The first and most spectacular is a total eclipse, when the Moon completely covers the Sun's surface. A total eclipse can only be seen if standing within the umbral shadow. That's why the imaginary line created by the shadow as it races across Earth is known as the path of totality. People within the penumbral shadow see only a partial eclipse, the second type. From this view, outside the path of totality, the Moon passes in front of the Sun off-center, never fully covering its surface. Third, an annular eclipse occurs when the Moon passes directly in front of the Sun. However, unlike a total eclipse, the Moon appears too small to fully cover the Sun. The Moon's orbit is elliptical, so sometimes it's closer to Earth and sometimes it's farther away. Last, a hybrid eclipse is when the Moon's position between the Earth and Sun is so finely balanced that the curvature of the Earth plays a role. The Moon will be farther away from some parts of Earth along the eclipse's path, resulting in an annular eclipse. In other parts, the Moon will be just close enough to fully cover the Sun, resulting in a total eclipse. While a total solar eclipse happens somewhere on Earth every year or two, any given point on Earth experiences the event only about once every 400 years. We interrupt this video for an important safety announcement. Looking directly at the Sun, even during an eclipse, can cause permanent eye damage. Fortunately, there are ways to enjoy an eclipse safely. The easiest is to use certified eclipse watching glasses, which are shaded thousands of times darker than typical sunglasses. You can also look at the eclipse indirectly by making a pinhole viewer. Simply poke a small hole in a piece of cardboard. Hold the cardboard up to the Sun, allowing the Sun's image to be projected onto a flat surface. Be sure to look only at the surface and not through the cardboard. Just before the Moon completely covers the Sun, low-lying valleys on the Moon's edge will be the only spots that sunlight continues to pass through. These remaining brilliant shafts of light, known as Bailey's beads, will disappear one after another. And finally, a single bead of light remains, known as the diamond ring, signaling that you're just seconds away from experiencing totality. Once the last bead disappears, and the Moon completely covers the Sun's surface, the view through your eclipse glasses will be pitch black. Totality achieved. At this point, none of the Sun's rays are reaching your eyes, and it's the only time that it's safe to take off your glasses. Remember to put your eclipse glasses back on before any of the Sun's rays start to peek through again. Any reaching your eyes, even for a few seconds, can cause serious damage. While an eclipse can last a few hours, totality typically occurs for less than 3 minutes. Animals and plants have also been known to alter their behavior during a total eclipse. Songbirds may stop singing, crickets may start chirping, and flowers may even start to close up. We won't always be able to see total solar eclipses. The moon moves about 1.5 inches away from Earth each year. It's estimated that in about 1 billion years, the moon will be too far away from Earth to completely cover the sun.
Wonder why I played that video all so long, huh? Because I wanted you to hear that last part. That the moon is going away from the Earth, and so eventually what they're saying is we won't have eclipses anymore. It's going to come to an end one day. But we got some very good information. We will get back to them a little bit later. Don't worry. Let's go. So based on what science is saying, they can basically predict when, where, and what type of eclipse will happen of the sun. That's how they are. They can actually, we learned that in science class, or 5-minute science class a while ago. So we learned they can tell when it's coming all over the earth. Oh, you know, Jamaica gonna see it this time, America gonna see it that time, and they know all of that, right? Now, does this mean scientists have a clearer view than anybody else when Jesus will return? No, of course not. This is just the eclipse of the sun. That's just the first one we're looking at. So there's a bunch more to go, right? So let us read some more what Jesus said. So, we put on some more in it immediately after the tribulation. Those days the sun will be darkened, and then the moon will not give its light. So we have eclipse of the sun, and we have the moon. Let's go. Fast forward time again to look at this one. Real quickly, this one. It's like the moon is disappearing. Look at that. When it's totally covered, it glows red. No, I didn't know that. We talked about the moon red in the Bible. Never picked it up. We always talk about the blood moon, but I knew it glowed, but I didn't know it was when it had a total eclipse of the moon. That's when the blood moon comes out. Just learned that one. Just letting you know. I knew it happened, but I didn't know it was when the total eclipse of the moon happened. Then we get the blood moon, and it glows red. But how could they know that? There was no science back then. Because God helped create the sun and the moon and the stars. He knows what, because he put the things in place. But anyway, let's keep going. Right? Science class again. Don't worry, you'll see why science class paid off and get us into the Bible. So here we go.
A lunar eclipse happens when the Earth blocks some or all of the sun's direct light from reaching the moon. This cosmic event only takes place during a full moon, which happens once every 29.5 days, or the length of one full orbit of the moon around the Earth. So why don't we have an eclipse every month? The moon's orbit is tilted a few degrees in relation to the Earth, so the Earth, moon, and sun don't always align. When the Earth does eclipse the sun, it casts two types of shadows on the moon. A larger shadow, known as the penumbra, and a smaller, darker shadow, known as the umbra. There are 3 types of lunar eclipses. The first is a total lunar eclipse, when the sun, moon, and Earth are in perfect alignment and the moon falls within the Earth's umbral shadow. Total lunar eclipses are the most striking of the 3 types because they turn the moon a sunset red. While shorter blue wavelengths of light are scattered outward by the Earth's atmosphere, longer red wavelengths are refracted or bent inward toward the moon, making it appear red. The brightness of the moon's red glow depends upon how much dust and clouds are in the Earth's atmosphere. Following volcanic activity, ash can block out enough light to render the moon a darker red or even near black. A partial lunar eclipse, the second type, occurs when the Earth, Moon, and Sun don't perfectly align, so only part of the moon passes into Earth's umbra. Earth's shadow appears very dark on the side of the moon facing Earth. Last, a penumbral lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes through Earth's penumbral shadow. The event is so subtle that most people don't even notice. The moon will appear just slightly darker than normal. Lunar eclipses occur up to 3 times a year and can be observed from the entire nighttime half of the Earth. Unlike during a solar eclipse, it's safe to look at the moon with the naked eye during a lunar eclipse. It is only because of the distances of the sun and moon from the Earth that we are able to witness total lunar eclipses. As the moon inches away from the Earth each year, one day, billions of years from now, the moon will be too far away to fall completely within Earth's umbral shadow. Until then, we can occasionally enjoy seeing our own planet's shadow cast upon the largest object in the night sky.
Boy, do I love science. So, based on that video, scientists can predict when and where a lunar eclipse will happen too, right? So, both the sun and the moon eclipse can be tracked. I know some people are now thinking in their mind, online and in here, Pastor, are you sure they can track the return of Jesus? Because these people look smart, but they ain't smarter than our God, right? So the answer is no. And here is one of the reasons why. So we're just looking at one right now, right? All scientists agree the moon is going further away from the sun. All of them agree on that. I didn't make that up. That you heard it in the video. Whether it's the sun eclipse or whether it's the moon eclipse, the moon is inching away. Right? So one day it's going to stop. According to them, billions of years from now, we won't be able to see any of these eclipses again. Because they have that the earth is billions of years old, and so in a couple of years, we'll be talking about when there used to be an eclipse. Alright. So, the theory from science is that these astronomical events will one day come to an end. It's as if a clock is counting down for it to stop. Oh, look at that. Right? I totally agree with them. They are 100% correct. I agree with the scientists. Our clock is counting down and it is coming to an end. Right? I just don't agree the way they think about it. So they got one thing right even though they don't know it, because they're saying something is happening. The moon is moving, so we're counting down till we get to an end day when we won't see anything more or something else is going to happen. But it's going to only be billions of years from now. So there will be an end to all of the movement and rotation at one point based on what Jesus said is going to occur. Think about it. Everything so far is ordered. That's why I don't know, people don't believe in God. Earth is what? On an axis, and it's rotating as well. So it's tilted. Moon also on the axis, and it's tilted, rotating as well. Moon is spinning away, going further. Sun stationary and all of that. And we're all rotating and everybody, but all these rotations are orderly. That they produce eclipses straight throughout the year, both with the sun and the moon. Who could come up with something like that? And then you have someone way back in the old days could tell you that the moon is going to turn red before we have technology to see it. And I don't understand how people miss that, because he says the moon is going to turn red. How did we miss that? And he talks about an eclipse and all of those things before it happens, before technology. Right? Jesus was predicting this. But still, it happened. But that's not the one he's talking about. We're still in what? Specific sequence, a specific time God is talking about when he's doing this. So science can record a solar eclipse, and science can record a lunar eclipse. Look at this. They can even happen the same day. It has, yeah, I checked it up. It has happened the same day, but never at the same time, because everybody's what? Moving. Remember the rotation? So it can't happen at the same time, because somebody would have to stand still for all of it to take place at the same time. I only remember one time in the Bible that God made the earth stand still for the sun to keep not move. Remember that for Joshua? But anyway, let's get back to this, because they're saying, basically what they're saying, it can't happen the same time, because the natural order of rotation would have to what? Stop. Let's go further. So the sun, the earth, and the moon, whether we believe it or not, is the foundation on which time hinges. Did you know that? That is where we get time from. But by the way, who gave us time? And the sun and moon were the first day, and even in the morning were the first. God gave us this because He put it in order. And man adopted it and claimed that they discovered it. No, it was already there, and God gave us time, and He exists outside of time. We don't. Right? So the sun, the earth, the moon, whether we believe it or not, is the foundation on which time hinges right across the globe. Everybody gets time from that. The sun, the earth, the moon. Right? The rotation or the movements is how we get an eclipse. Right? So let's keep going. It would basically be a stop in rotation or a stop in time for a phenomenal event like all of them to eclipse at once to happen. We already know God can do that because He did it once already in the Old Testament. Twice. Oh yeah, with the sun, when He put it back. I forgot about that. Thank you, Gary. When He set back the rotation the other way. Whoa, that's even bigger than stopping it. Because He put the rotation in reverse. In other words, when a transmission goes bad, you can't put it in reverse. God's transmission was working. He actually put the rotation in reverse for Ezekiel. Thank you for bringing that one up. I totally forgot about that one. So, when this happens, it's going to be such an event that everybody's going to be like, what? But we're not finished here. Let's go a little further. So the sun, which is stationary, it's not impossible that God might have to shift it out of its place for everything to align. I don't know how He's going to do it. That's up to Him. Right? But He's going to do that. That's not impossible. Also, the moon is going to have to probably stop moving. Depends on how we do it, because I can't tell you the details, but that's going to happen in some way. Right? And the earth is going to probably move off its axis and stop moving. Now think about this. We're on an axis and we're tilted and we're moving and we're spinning constantly. We don't know. The only time we feel it is when we remember to and then we stand up. That's when we know the earth is spinning, right? And we fall off because we get dizzy. Right? So this is what is going to happen. So all these phenomenal things would have to take place for both eclipses to happen at the same time. In other words, time would have to stop along with the natural order of things in space and our solar system. Now you see why science says this will never happen. That's why I love science, because they calculated out everything for us and says this is how it's going to go and it's going to stop here. And remember, God says nobody knows the day nor the hour. We'll get to that next week. But this is the reason why nobody will be able to calculate it, because nobody is calculating out of the natural order of things. So this is why they can never predict when He's coming, because the natural order of things is the way science works. All of this have to happen, and this is how we get that, and we can tell you when it happens, and we can tell you when this is coming. But based on science, they'll never meet, because everybody is what? Rotating. Science class was good. Now, science has no data to predict such an event. They have no data, when I checked it, that says, you know, the earth's going to come off its axis, this is going to happen, the moon will come off its axis, and everything is going to line up, and, you know, they have no data, and every data says rotation will keep spinning, and the moon will keep going its way, right? They only have data predicting that as things are, know that it will not stop, and of course it's billion of years away. They are predicting that the moon will continue going. But what if God set the moon on a rotation, and when it reaches a certain place, he says, okay, this is when his marker for the end of the days. Because the moon is going away. There's no doubt about it. But what if that's the clock to count down? But nobody else can read the moon. Because what are they reading? Billions of... They can't read it. They don't understand. Because sometimes it's nearer, sometimes it's further. But every time when they check it, they realize, oh, moved a couple inches. You see what I'm saying? So again, nobody has any data predicting how that will do. So the natural order of things, they cannot track God's movement. That's the first one, right? So to get the second reason why they can't predict the appearing of the Lord, we have to keep reading what Jesus said. So phenomenal things here. And we only got to 2, just the eclipses, right? Let's go and see what else. So we looked again, moon not giving their light. It says stars will fall from heaven. Now, this is something that a lot of people might not know, including myself. Science class again will help us. Here we go. Straight to science class, because we need this one. I needed this one. Look at this.
Nearly 50 tons of space debris crash onto the Earth every day. While some debris surely dissipate into the atmosphere,
Every day?
others display a spectacular light show.
They're all falling stars. Shooting stars.
Meteor showers occur when the Earth's orbit intersects with the orbit of a comet.
There's a different
As
orbit
comets
going on.
travel, they leave behind trails of rocky material, oftentimes the size of pebbles or grains of sand, but sometimes as large as boulders. Every year, the Earth crosses these trails of debris, known as meteoroid streams, and the planet becomes sprinkled with rocky material. The debris then race through the Earth's atmosphere, creating friction with air particles and generating vast amounts of heat. This heat vaporizes and illuminates the debris as they fall, creating streaks of light in the sky, popularly known as shooting stars. These celestial light shows are often named after the constellation where they appear to originate as seen from Earth's surface. Meteor showers that seem to fall from the constellation Perseus are called the Perseids, and those appearing from the constellation Gemini are called the Geminids. About 30 meteor showers can be seen from Earth throughout the course of a year. And because the showers are timed with Earth's orbit, the celestial phenomena are cyclical and occur at regular intervals. For example, the Perseid meteor shower happens every August, and the Geminid meteor shower happens every December.
Did not know that.
Meteor showers have inspired awe and admiration for millennia. In Christian tradition, the Perseid meteor showers symbolize the tears of a saint, Saint Lawrence, who was executed in August of the year 258. And in the 1st century AD, the astronomer Ptolemy believed that shooting stars were a sign of the gods looking upon mortals and listening to their wishes. Inspiring everything from making wishes to reveling at the sky, meteor showers are a reminder of our place in a dynamic and beautiful cosmic ecosystem.
No, that's a lot I did not know. One thing I knew, the study of the stars were old. And you see that is old because you had people way back in 20 this and 20 that. That's before 19 came into the picture. Think about that, before the 1 came into the picture. You had people telling this and looking at the stars to show you how far back it is. What did the wise men follow? A star. So the study of the stars is old technology. People think it's new, but it's old. But again, what we find out here is that it's ordered again. So think about this. All these things that happened, eclipse, moon, eclipse, sun, meteor showers, were all set in place from the beginning. An ordered universe. Nothing is out of order. They can track it. They can tell you when this shower is going to happen, meteor shower. They can tell you what time of the year a particular one is going to. I never knew all that. So, Again, they can calculate everything. But if you notice, the ring of the meteor shower is going a different orbit from the Earth. You realize that? So they won't what? Collide. God is a good God. And so these are stars that are moving, and some of them are just sprinkling a little dust on it, but they're already in place. Could have a collision when somebody says it's time. Ooh. Who has that power? Boy, do I love science now. You realize how science allows us to realize that God put all these things in place from time. And we didn't even realize it. But he put all the place in time for the end from the beginning. Because he exists outside of time. And these stars are going to come up again. So, just like before, falling stars or shooting stars as we call them can be tracked by science. We're just getting sprinkles now, sometimes a little bolder, right? And one of the most famous ones, and this is what we should realize, Halley's Comet. That's a star. But it's circling at different intervals, and it's like it's waiting for instructions, and it hasn't done anything, and it passes us. And every 75 to 76 years, the next appearance will be 2062. I'll be 84. You won't be here. I'm hoping I get to see it. God, like I taught a Bible study on that one time back in the was it 21 or 22? You know, I'll be old and gray at that time. But 76 years from now, they can track its coming. Think about this, right? So it's on no way of hitting her Earth. It passes, leaves some debris, and other of them are passing, and they're all in the atmosphere just working, but nobody touching us. How could we be so, as people would say, lucky? To not think about this, all these shooting stars, that it happens all throughout the years, 30 different ones happening on a regular basis, and none colliding. And we say God is not real, or we should say they say God is not real. We know God is real because we'll be dead already, right? All right, so we see this. So again, everything is in order and can be predicted, right? It would take, again, time to stop to throw things off our natural rotation in the solar system that keeps things in order with time. So if time stops, remember what time is, you know? The rotation of the earth, the moon, and all of these things. That's where we get time from. So if time stops, we're in trouble. Now think about this. Let's go a little further. Please realize that if the natural order of time and rotation stops, it's going to be chaos. We need to understand how serious this is, right? The stars will no longer be shooting stars without any targets. Because they're not on our rotation that gives time. They're on their own orbit. Remember? Already spinning and doing their things. We are the one that is in the natural order and gives us time. Think about that. We on Earth would now become a target of collision. Right? Now, say for instance, Halley's Comet that passes us will now not pass. It will run directly to the Earth along with all those other falling stars that occur during the year. She said what? About 30 different times? Can you imagine stop and we just get one out of the 30? Just one. Do you see how much happened in that little video? And that was just one of them. You see how much falling star? If God just let it stop one time and we just one of those, it's serious, right? So the earth will become a collision course, and guess how many would die? Because those things are not small. Think about it, right? And when you read Revelations, it tells you that things will be falling from heaven and the stars and going to the water and make it bitter and all of that, and the third of the earth will be killed. That's the book that goes deeper into this. But it's going to happen just before something else happens, and that's going to be just the taste of the tribulation period. So, we're still not in the tribulation period. Keep going. Let's go see now. So, we're reading. We see the stars falling from heaven. And we also now see the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Notice it says there, heavens. Remember, if you did the study with me, there are 3 types of heaven. Heaven where God dwells, heaven outer space, and heaven the sky, which is with ours. So the earth has its own heaven. So it's 3 heavens the Bible talks about. Right here it's talking about heaven, so it can't be less than 2. And I agree with them. The 2 is ours and space. Because that's where powers are going to be shaking. Why would God shake his house? Don't need to. So, let's look at this again. What happens when a speeding object comes to a sudden stop? Oh. See, when time stops, the rotation has to stop. You see, we weren't equating it now. Now we're getting the understanding. When time stops, the rotation stops. And when it stops a speeding object, think about it. Right? Everything is shaken. Things are moved out of place uncontrollably. Think about you driving at a fast speed, then suddenly jamming your brakes to stop it. And if you don't have on your seat belt, you could fly through the windshield. That is what is going to happen. Now, the earth is always in rotation. And it suddenly stops. What is inside the earth's core? Molten liquid. Oh, don't forget about that. Remember when the earth's movement also of the thing move and it shift, we get what? Tsunamis and earthquake. But think about also the molten liquid, all of those volcanoes that weren't active. And those molten liquids. Think about you having now a cup of water and you're swirling it around. And you get so good at it, you swirl it. It doesn't come over the edge. It keeps going, yeah. And you keep, but if you don't slow it down and you do like this, what's going to happen? So think about the earth making a sudden stop for all the things to line up. Plus, if he decides when he does that, all these things are going to happen with the volcanic eruptions, with the earth's core, all of that. Plus if he decides to put it to stand up straight. So we're talking another movement. Earth rotating, but it's rotating like this. What if he goes? That's big. So not only this stop, but erect. Everyone's going to be thrown off. It's going to be chaos. Natural order is going to go right through the door. So, notice the words said, the powers of heavens will be shaken. Which means it's not only here on earth, but in space. The rotation is going to have to stop. And all of those things are going to have to happen. Because it's going to shake up the moon too. And as I said, he might shake the sun up. Because he put it out there. So, earth, heaven, everybody's going to be shaken when it's time to stop. People are never going to experience an earthquake like this, as it's going to be global. It's not going to be in Jamaica, it's going to be global. Right? Now, here's the next reason why they can't track is appearing. Natural order is going to be out the door. But this, we're going to look at the verse and see something of utmost importance. Let's read now this paragraph in its entirety and see something. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, or immediately after the time of suffering, the days when the earth is sorrowful, immediately, that word there says that means it's going to go on for a time, and then when it is done, immediately after that, those days, the sun will be darkened, and, he didn't say then, and, that means happening right now at the same time, or this, then this, then this, then this. So it could be a quick sequence, or it could be simultaneously. But there's no, okay, last week the moon stopped showing light. 10 months later, the sun stopped. No. Let's read. Immediately after those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. All at once, or a quick succession, right there now. That's the only explanation, right? So to be clear, a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse, stars falling to the earth, and a great earthquake will happen as a sequence, one after the other, or simultaneously. No, everybody's going to be waking up at that time, because we're all on the earth. Some people are going to be light, dark, whatever. When there is a total eclipse, I'm thinking it could be entire darkness, because now he has the sun and the moon working together. Because remember, half give light when half is in darkness and all of that stuff. All of a sudden now we can see that the entire place could be in total darkness, because he's going to have both eclipses at the same time, right? So my guess is simultaneously to get the world's attention. That's what is happening, right? No, I need you to see this. Why is God trying to get the world's attention when he does all of this all at once? Look what happens next. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. Makes sense. Stop the earth in its tracks, because guess what? Who is coming back? You see why I say it's a specific event in time now, and not just the general things that are happening, because he's telling you what comes right after that big thing happens. Immediately this happens. Then immediately the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. In other words, even though God is coming back in the clouds, now everybody gonna be happy. Because some people are gonna say, oh my gosh, my mother, the star fell from heaven and killed her. Oh my gosh, I can't see where I'm going. Head-on collision. Oh my. So many things might happen. You get what I'm saying? He says the tribes of all the earth will mourn. That's not what we were told was going to happen when he's coming back. We were told he's going to be so happy. They did not lie to us. For us, Christians, we will be happy. God is coming back for us. But it's not going to be pretty for those people. Let's read. The Son of Man, it says, then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. All the tribes of the earth. Every nation, no matter what race, no matter who you are, all the tribes will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. So this is not for the Christians to rejoice. This is for the Christians to know that those who reject Jesus, they're going to be mourning and they're going to be so upset that this is happening. And they're still going to see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to the other. So even if the star falls down and kills me and Sharon, it doesn't matter, because right after that we'll be resurrected. You see, so we will be the only persons that will be happy when he puts in his appearing. Because when he puts in his appearing, there's going to be destruction right before. Now, we weren't taught that. I don't know if you were taught that, but I wasn't taught that. We were only taught the Christian perspective. Jesus told his disciples what's going to happen to the people who are not believers. Their perspective is not pretty. Eclipse, darkness, stars falling from heaven, all that happening in one quick succession. So there's going to be a wreck on the earth. The brakes are going to be put on time. It's going to be terrible. So, in other words, after this great worldwide disaster comes the rapture. Think about that. One big major event. Holy moly, no light on this earth. What is going on? I've never seen this before. What's that? Stars are falling. Oh my gosh, reports of people dying in America. Reports of people dying in Canada. Oh, stars falling from heaven. All that. All of this done. And when all of that done and they're trying to figure out what's happening, the sky is breaking. Trumpet is sounding. They might not hear it. We certainly will. We're sure of that. Because we're Christians and we hear the trumpet and we are resurrected, and they're like, and then you see why people gonna hate God. So when all the earth is basically wrecked in a little bit of time right there, we are going away. Bye, see you. No, you understand why people are going to hate God now? Because it wasn't clear to me why they will do that. So the coming of the Lord will not be pretty for humanity. That's the truth. That's the part that is not taught in church. they teach the Christian perspective of the coming of the Lord. Yeah, we're happy, we're going. But when he comes, it's not going to be simple. I've always wondered, when he comes, how come everybody's going to see it? How can because he's going to put the brakes on time. Now, is the rotation going to come back in? I feel so, because the earth is going to continue again after. But he's going to stop it so that everybody can see what's happening. And when he stops it, it's going to be a lot of casualties. And it doesn't matter if he kills the Christians, because we're going to be resurrected right after. But it does matter for those who did not believe in God, because they won't get another chance. It's terrible, right? So, it will be spectacular. It will be phenomenal. But it's not going to be pretty and enjoyable for those who will not be caught up to meet Jesus. That's terrible. I feel it for them. A total worldwide disaster. And then we leave them. We're not going to be there to help. All the Christian paramedics, gone. The Christian pilots, gone. So there are going to be even more casualties. Because if a star doesn't lick that plane out of the sky, and if I become a pilot, and I'm caught up, everybody else, gone. It's going to be terrible. Right? So this is one of the reasons why people will hate God and turn from him, as great sorrow and a wrecked earth will be left right after the rapture. It's going to be wrecked. Now this is the other part that lines up. A lot of people didn't get this. Now we're getting this part. Now we're going to see how Revelation unfolds. And we're not going into Revelation, but look at this. Right? This prepares the way for the Antichrist to bring peace for the people to follow him. Think about this. How are you going to get one person for the entire earth to follow? He's going to come and say, this is what we should do. He's going to have power. He's going to have resources. He's going to have to be able to perform miracles. All of these things. Why are people going to follow him? Because in their minds, their God has rejected them. And now this person comes in and brings the solution to the rest of the earth. Now you're going to have people that are going to be saying, hey, okay, I'm ready for myself. I understand what's going to happen. So I got to stick with God right now. But you're going to have some people like, curse God and die. I don't care anymore. Because this is what he did to me. So, after which he will set up his world order very easily. And the mark of the beast will be easy to roll in, because this man fixed the earth. Think about it. He fixed most of our problems. And he says, this is the way to trade. This is the way to do it. Everybody's going to get their mark. Right? But then, who don't want to get the mark? Who don't want to submit? Time of war. Right? And those who want to serve God, terrible for them. Executions. They will be killed. So people will hate God so much because they remember the rapture events, and persecuting and killing anybody serving God will be normal. They're going back to the days where they're going to be killed. And because some people are going to come to accept God because they realize their mistake. But it's not going to be easy for them. They're going to have to be running for their lives. Right? That is what's going to happen. So, after all of that, the tribulation period will occur as well. So there's as I said, at least another 1,000 years happening. That time we're in heaven doing what we do best. Praise God. Until the wrapping up for the last day when we have the big war, all of that, then judgment and all of that stuff. So think about that. So all these details after the rapture now is found in Revelation. I wish someone had told me all of this when I was younger. Then I would have understood that this is after. But they made it seem like everything is all together, Matthew thing and everything. No. You have pre and after. So, when he sets up his thing, that's from Revelation going on. Right? So that's when you start reading Revelation. What Jesus gave the disciples and us is right up to his appearing and to collect the church. That's why I call it the first end. So it gives us right to when, hey, when I'm here, this is what. So he gives them general stuff, then he gets specific, then he gives them general stuff, then he gets specific again and say, listen, when I come back, This is what gonna happen just before I part those skies. Wow. That is awesome. So, as I said, some of these things, science helps us a lot because science points to where the Bible should be going. But a lot of people don't realize it. They think the science points away from it. No, the science shows that there is a God because everything is ordered. Who could get all these stars to be running for so many years, according to you, billions of years, and not one misses? And I want to share this with you as I close Bible study. Now listen to this. According to science, the earth was formed by a what? Collision. Those same stars that are orderly now weren't orderly then, and you had a what? Collision and an explosion. And out of this collision and explosion formed an ordered universe where all these same stars and matter spinning are now so perfectly over there, and then they had planets there, and then they made a sun out of that, and earth came out of it, and all of that, and it's perfect. I can never find any explosion that has been ordered. Every explosion has been chaotic. Can you? Again, that is why they tell you that it's a theory. And so the theory that they have now does not hold up with the facts they have now. Because theory says explosion, but fact says ordered universe, which proves there is a God. And that's Bible study for today. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See God at work and see the things that He did.